Tessa Winter, New York City, New York, May 1st, 2018. Tessa was so excited she could hardly contain herself as the ferry pulled into the dock. She had dreamed of coming to New York City to see the Statue of Liberty her whole life, and who better to do it with than her new fiancé, Mark. The entire trip had been a surprise, a college graduation gift from Mark to her. She'd met him at UCLA 3 years ago and instantly fell in love with the big lug when she first saw him on the football field. She secretly stalked him for the next 2 months, following him to practice, making sure she took the same chem class as him, and even cozying up to his sister, who also attended the school. Finally, when she could not take it any longer, she asked him out on a date. Being the big sports star, he was used to girls wanting to go out with him, so it wasn't a big deal to say yes. After all, Tessa was pretty enough with her auburn long hair, slender frame, and piercing green eyes. The two hit it off like rock stars, laughing the night away and never finding it challenging to settle on a topic of conversation. The next 3 years were wonderful. Life continued as their romance became more serious. As graduation neared for both, they looked forward to their futures, with Mark entering sports medicine and her wanting to become an engineer. Neither could imagine their lives without the other. So, to celebrate, Mark booked a flight to New York and bought an engagement ring. He proposed to her over dinner with the ring lying on the top of the plane tickets. She beamed with joy as she accepted both the ring and the tickets, with the Statue of Liberty being the first thing she wanted to see. They landed last night, stayed at an expensive hotel, had a fantastic dinner, went back to the hotel, made love, and fell asleep in each other's arms. In the morning, Tessa was up before sunrise, as if it was Christmas morning. Even with the misty overcast that hung over the city, threatening rain in the mid-afternoon, they were off to catch the ferry to Liberty Island. Tessa latched onto Mark's arm as they stepped off the boat and entered the ferry docks. The pavilion was ahead of them, filled with gift shops, restaurants, and a museum. Flagpole Plaza was easily seen from her vantage point, with a large American flag flapping erratically in the wind. Of course, the tiny island's main attraction was Lady Liberty herself, which loomed over everything. "Oh, just look at her, Mark," Tessa said. "Did you know that the statue is over 300 feet tall and made of 30 tons of copper and 125 tons of steel?" "I know. I read the same pamphlet as you, dear," Mark replied. Tessa smiled as Mark shivered in her arms. He was born and raised in California, so being in New York during an unseasonably cold streak wasn't something he was used to. Still, it gave her an excuse to hold on to him longer, at least until some other distraction pulled her away. "It was a gift to America from the French people," Tessa continued. "Although we had to pay for the construction of the base it stands on." "We? I don't remember that coming out of my paycheck." "Well, I mean, people back then had to pay for it, silly." "Must have been a lot of money." "Oh, it was." While still in conversation with Mark, a man bumped into Tessa, nearly knocking the two of them to the ground. "Hey!" Mark said. The man, however, ignored them as he walked away quickly. "God damn it! That rude bastard!" Mark said. "Hey, buddy!" "Just let it go, Mark." Tessa did not say it aloud, but something troubled her about the man as a cold shiver ran down her back. He was tall and lean with a shaved head. She could barely make out a tattoo under his coat that covered his neck. He carried a duffel bag, even though such baggage was not allowed on the boat. She wondered how he managed to get it on the island, and more importantly, what was inside it. As Mark broke from her grip and headed off to chase the rude man, Tessa noticed another group. All of them wore dark clothes, shaved heads, and had tattoos. More importantly, there was something about their eyes and hinted at their edginess. Tessa looked around frantically for a ranger. "Mark! Hey, asshole! I think you owe my fiancé an—" Tessa saw everything that happened in the next moment, as if time had slowed to a crawl. The man with the bag turned when Mark reached out to him. In the same motion, his hand came out of his pocket and a pistol held firmly in his grip. He aimed it at Mark. A shot echoed across the island as a 9mm bullet tore through Mark's forehead. Blood and brains blew out the back of his head as Tessa screamed as Mark's body dropped to the ground. Tessa noticed the other men joined their comrade as he turned and continued to fire his gun at everyone, man, woman, and child nearest to him. Finally, the gunman turned and aimed his weapon at Tessa, who stood frozen in fear. She was unsure She was unsure she was shot until a hot liquid began running down her pants, as if she had just spilled tea. She collapsed, screaming with the realization that she had been shot. Pulling her hand to her side, she saw blood drizzling from her stomach. More gunfire erupted soon after, now more violent and with a higher frequency. The rest of the gang had pulled an arsenal from the duffel bag and were spraying bullets into the crowd. Tessa felt someone try to grab her as she was dragged. Glancing back, she saw a young man. She realized he must have seen her go down, and despite the fear that was evident on his face, he must have felt he needed to do something. He should have taken care of himself, as he was suddenly struck 2 times. Blood sprayed across Tessa's face as her savior went down. Turning, she saw the man that murdered Mark walked up to her. He held a small rifle, an M4 she recognized. Tessa's sister was in the military, so she knew a few firearms. "Please, don't," Tessa said. The man stared at her. She had never seen such hatred in someone's eyes before. What would make someone do this? She thought. To want to hurt innocent people. Why? Her plea did not matter as the man fired. Tessa did not die right away as her head hit the ground. She felt the odd sensation of blood coming out of her head, pooling in the dirt she landed in. She saw through blurry eyes the man who shot her. He looked down at her and spat as if she had personally offended him somehow before turning and continuing to fire into the crowd. Mark, she thought. She wanted more than anything to be with him in these final moments. She did not believe in heaven or hell, but with her last thought, she hoped she would meet him again in a better place.